Good evening. All right. Note to self, swallow the microphone. Good evening. Welcome to St. Catherine's and our Mayor's Candidate Forum. I'm Deacon John Nagano, and so on behalf of our parish, welcome. Most important for you to know is where the restrooms are. So the ladies' room is through this corner door. Gentlemen, you're in the center door there. We have coffee that was perking while you were arriving. It's now available, and we will get started in just a moment.
Hello? Thank you. Good evening and welcome. My name is Perla Alvarez. I am a member of St. Catherine of Alexandra's Catholic Church, a student at Ramona High School, and a youth leader with ICUC.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Martinez Gonzalez. I am a member of Our Lady of Perpetual Help and a student at Ramona High School. I will be serving as co-monitor tonight. We are gathered here tonight at St. Catherine of Alexandria Catholic Church, together with members of Riverside Faith Communities. Before we go any further, we invite Deacon John Nagano of our hosting congregation, St. Catherine's, to give the blessing and opening prayer.
So before we start our prayer, let us all take out our cell phones and put them on vibrate, because we're gathered here, and this is a sacred time for all of us. It's time to listen to our candidates, so we don't want a lot of extraneous noise so that we can hear. So please make sure your cell phone's on vibrate or silent. And in my faith tradition, welcome. We begin in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. But for all of us, good and gracious God and Father, we just thank you for bringing us here today. Thank you for allowing us to hear these candidates for our mayor, that we may judge their platforms, that we may ask questions, that we may get to know them better. And in so doing, they will serve us, because they will also hear our questions. And so, Lord, we just ask you to bless this time that we spend together. May it be fruitful. May it give us something to think about when we go home, that we may discern the candidate that represents us best. And the church, the synagogue, the Islamic Center, we say amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Deacon John. Now I would like to introduce Isabel Gastelum and Yesenia Ramirez Trejo, who will share with us the credential and purpose.
My name is Isabel, and I'm a student at Educational Option Center. Tonight we are gathered here as a community of faith. We represent youth and faith leaders from congregations in Riverside. Hundreds of our congregation members vote in city elections. When we work together in support of our values that unite us as people of faith, we are capable of truly transforming our community. ICUC, Inland Congregations United for Change, and the interfaith communities here tonight are nonpartisan. We neither support nor endorse candidates for office.
Hi, my name is Yesenia. I'm a student at ICUC. Tonight we host an informational forum with candidates running for mayor to learn about their positions on issues impacting our neighborhoods and our city. We have prepared questions that are important to our congregation. Members of the audience will also have an opportunity to ask questions. Let's give all those involved in making this evening possible a big hand.
Thank you, Isabella and Yesenia. Now, before we introduce our candidates, please signal your approval of tonight's agenda with applause. Now, I would like to introduce Marlena Salcido, our timekeeper. She represents the interests of everyone. With our approval of the agenda, we give her the power to keep us on schedule. Just remember, when you respect the timekeeper, you respect our community.
I would like to take this time to introduce our candidates. Richard Gardner. John Deadhouse. Asius Stapler. Asa Stapler, my bad. Guy Harrow. some rules for tonight's meeting. Number 1, please be respectful of all speakers. Number 2, the agenda and times will be followed. Before hearing our candidates, I remind everyone here that the views of the candidates are entirely their own, and the sponsorship of this forum by ICUC and congregations is not intended as an endorsement of any candidate. Our faith communities neither support nor oppose any candidate. This event is designed to educate the public. We will also be recording and posting video of tonight's forum to riversidevotes.com, an educational voter resource created by ICUC Youth. In order to ensure fairness and impartiality, each response to a question will begin with a different candidate. Candidates will begin answering questions from left to right.
At this time, we would like to allow 2 minutes to each candidate to make their opening remarks. We begin with Richard Gardner.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. It's nice to see so many community members out here tonight to listen to us express our concerns with the city and our plans. And basically, I appreciate that because I'm concerned about our city too. That's why I've decided to enter into this race, which, by the way, is definitely a leap of faith for me. When I saw that Mayor Bailey was not going to seek a third term, I had the discussion with my wife, Shelley, over there, and I felt it was important to have a person of faith in this office. And it's been a very quick 4 months, to say the least. It's been a very learning experience. Some of you may know me in the community for the Dementia Friendly City program that we've started here. For those that do not know, my wife, prior to Shelley, Debbie, died at 59 years old from Alzheimer's disease. So I became an expert on the illness, which is the 6th leading cause of death in America currently. And I'm hoping the city does continue with the Dementia Friendly City program. We're currently training restaurants on how to serve those that are suffering with dementia and Alzheimer's. And again, I just want to say thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight. I'm sorry, I guess I have 1 minute left. I'm not looking in the right way. But I'm just going to keep it short. I do appreciate you guys giving your time tonight because that's important to me.
And now, John Edmonds.
The first thing I had to do when I have to go somewhere is to study a route that I have to figure out. And when I read it again, it says faith. So the first thing I did was I talked to God. Since this race, I haven't talked to him because I believe he's there watching over me. It's funny that I don't pray to him. I don't ask him for anything until I need something. I don't know if you guys can relate to that, but that's our problem in life is we don't ask for anything until we need something. What we need to do is ask before that bill comes. So I just want you to know that faith is a big thing in my life. Rich and I here actually were from Bosco, St. John Bosco in Belmont. He graduated 6 years before I attended. So because of him, I went back to the school to ask them for my scholarship. What happened was I got a scholarship from the Knights of Columbus to enter in the 9th grade. I didn't speak English that well, but after Christmas, the coach told me I had to go up to the front. I said, what for? And he goes, oh, you haven't paid your tuition. My mom's with me, and she's shouting out from down the street. I can hear her shouting from the parking lot into that thing. And I told my mom, I said, Mom, we can't even afford next year. So why don't we just skip it right now? So we did. We went to Mayfair High School, where I did. And what happened was, I just felt all these years that they owe me 6 months for tuition. So, but Father Mel, when I went there, he gave me a sweatshirt. I picked up the biggest and most expensive one. So I'm that kind of guy. If I have an issue, yeah, I might not do it today, but when time comes, I make it happen. So that's who I am. So I'm hoping that you look at me the way God looks at me. Thank you.
Now we have Asa Safely.
Hi everyone. It's so nice to see everyone gathered together. I love this. This is one thing that I've been experiencing on this journey. It's very new, very fresh journey for me. And I like seeing so many people together. This is how we are going to combat our issues. We're not going to rely on federal, state. We have to look to each other, and growing up as a resident of Riverside and watching Riverside go through all of its changes, seeing people come and go, I know that the foundation of Riverside is still here within all of us. And I'm here to help bring everyone together, bring all of our compassions together. I don't think this so much has to do with experience, but more about character, integrity, passion, compassion between us all. So that's why I'm here. That's why I'm running, because it's there. We just need someone who can bring it all together. And that's pretty much it. I'm pretty normal. Regular single mom, 3 kids, they're grown up, super excited about that. Gonna turn the room into an office type thing. But that's pretty much it. So thank you so much for having me.
Now, Guy.
Good evening, everyone. I guess just for my introduction, I just kind of want to just give a little synopsis of my experience and my career. I was born and raised here at Riverside. I don't know, some of you may have saw my personal biography. I'm supposed to keep this slow so they can translate, okay, so I'll slow down. Born and raised here at Riverside, went through the public school system here, primarily Harupa Unified, 1 year out here in glorious Riverside Unified for 5th grade, went back to Riverside, or Harupa, graduated from Harupa High School, went straight to a 4-year university, wasn't prepared at all. So any of you young people in here, if your parents or anyone suggests that you either go to a community college first or a state college, as someone who also has a master's and a teaching credential, I advise you to listen to that advice. Save yourself some anguish, some time, and some money. Once I finished UC Santa Barbara, I came here back to Riverside, applied to start substitute teaching in '94. Got my credential officially in 2001 while I was coaching and teaching, subbing full time. I taught the last 12 and a half years of my career with the Alvord Unified School District for Continuation High School. I opened their Alternative Ed Center. It's actually called Alternative Center. I don't know if they changed the name of it, but I opened that single-handedly and it was a great experience. For the last 4 years, I've been doing my own private taxi business, and I have one son. He's going to be 15 May 20th, and I'm on my 2nd time around with marriage. My experience as far as politics is, I once ran a Democrat club in Aruba, and since then I've just kind of been out of the limelight, just taking care of life. So that's me, and thank you all for coming tonight.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you all for being here and for caring about the future of Riverside. You share that with everybody up at this table. So just a little bit about myself. I am a Riverside native, born and raised here, youngest of 5. We all went to St. Catherine's in Notre Dame, so this is familiar territory to me. But I'm the only one of my siblings that decided to stay here in Riverside and build a life here. All 4 of my siblings left because they did not have opportunities here. So when my husband and I decided to build our lives here, I got involved in city and community to make this place where my children wouldn't feel they would have to leave. So I got involved in city government, and I have over 2 decades of public service experience. I spent 5 years on the City Planning Commission, my last as chairman. I served in the Schwarzenegger and Brown administrations as a gubernatorial appointee on the Board of Behavioral Sciences, and I've been on the school board for the past 8 years. And in each of those capacities, I have gotten results and brought home and made a difference. Because I don't think you should sit in a chair and not do anything. So that's been what I've wanted to do in each of those. And in fact, I have a long history of working with ICUC. The first time I ran for office, they told me we needed more college counselors. So we didn't have the money in the district, so I went to our Senator Roth and Assemblymember Medina, and we started our Pathways to College program, which is now in its 6th year, and it's been replicated by surrounding districts. So I want to bring that type of get it done attitude and skill set and breadth and depth of experience in water, land use planning, mental health services, and education to the mayor's office. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share our vision for the City of Riverside, and thank you so much for caring about the City of Riverside. My name is Andy Melendres, and I am a Ward 2 City Council member and have been with the City Council since 2006. I've been elected 4 times and have continually served in that capacity. A little bit about me. I grew up in Casablanca, attended Casablanca Elementary School, finished off at Poly High School, attended Riverside City College, went to UCR. Unfortunately, I was one of the children that had to work, or I was a young adult, and finished off my master's and my bachelor's degree at Cal State San Bernardino. I began my business in 1982 as a vocational counselor and expert, and I've been operating my business now for 37 years. In 1972, I began working with the probation department, and in 75, went to work as a gang intervention counselor in the East Side. And my job there was to stop the gangs from shooting each other. We really had a lot of work to do. It was a really problematic time, but I was very successful at it. In 1977, I started working with the Department of Vocational Rehabilitation, working with individuals with a variety of disabilities, evaluating them, helping them get back to work. Those that were not able to get back to work, we helped them to be independent in their homes. What I bring into the City of Riverside and what I brought is a real focus of attention to the homeless situation, public safety, also economic development. But one of the things that I think is so important is making sure that we have a community of inclusion, a community of equity, whether it be education, whether it be medical benefits, whether it be health services of any type. We need to make sure that the services are accessible to the low income as well as the high income. My focus has been that for the 14 years. It will continue to do that. I will continue to do that as mayor. Thank you.
At this time, we will address our questions to the candidates. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to a question. We have also set time to hear questions from those in the audience tonight. If you have not filled out a question card with your question to the candidates, please give it to Yesenia at the registration table by 8 p.m. We will review the cards and address some of the questions depending on available time. Now we will hear the questions from our community and the candidates' responses. In order to keep ourselves to the times on the agenda, we ask that each candidate respect our timekeeper and limit their answer to 2 minutes. If you wish to applaud, please wait until the end of each question. And we have our first question asked by Miguel Gonzalez David.
Good afternoon. I'd like to thank the candidate for being here and members of the community. And I'll just start off by saying I know from firsthand experience that we and many of the youth have trouble getting necessary resources or help when it deals with the epidemic that is mental health among the youth. And I'd like to propose a question. What measures would you take for supporting youth mental health?
I guess I'm batting lead off tonight, and that's okay. First of all, that's a very important question, and I took time to do a little bit of research on this. Okay, this is working, right?
Yes.
Okay. So basically, regarding mental health, a lot of people may not know this, and I didn't until this week, that 46% will experience mental illness, 5% of adults in any given year, or 43.8 million adults will experience mental illness. Getting back to your question, which I can relate to it because I fought a battle where there was very little awareness, and that's Alzheimer's disease. A lot of people in the audience are old enough to remember when cancer was called the big C. So we live in a different era nowadays where social media can have a big impact. So I think one of the biggest things is to get the awareness out there, whether it's through social media or the city does, as far as I know, possess part of that big auto center screen up there so they can periodically rotate the message there. They did that for our Purple Vote Float, so I'm sure they can do that. And also, you have to understand the signs of mental illness. Basically, withdrawal is one of the big signs. When I was down in Long Beach, where I was caring for my stepdad for 22 months, I attended their city council there, and they presented an Alzheimer's Awareness Award. And at that point, I learned that suicide, which is part of mental illness, is the 10th leading cause of death in America. So these are staggering numbers, people, that we just don't understand. But by all means, you need to open the communication up. You need to spread awareness. Most of the people up here are very good with social media. So that's what I would suggest, is spreading the word.
All right, mental illness. I had a friend in high school. He was 16. He was living in another friend's garage. That parent let him do that because his parents were out of control. Him and I, we went in the Army together 2 weeks out of high school. He's an attorney now. I think he's a judge. So I'm going to stop this parade right there. We all have issues, and it all comes from our families, from our parents. The first thing is when a child shouts out for help, don't blame the child, blame the adults. Until that child's 18 years of age, the adults are responsible for those kids. I'm a big advocate for Child Protective Services. Child Protective Services saved me. I couldn't see one of my kids. I had to go and pay an enormous amount of money, $35 per an hour. Child Protective Services gives you 2 hours a week, twice a week. So you get to see your kid. So it's a fair thing. So everybody's still afraid of that. When I'm mayor, that's one of the biggest things I'm going to do. During the MLK thing, I met a lot of young kids. They love Mayor Bailey. Everything Mayor Bailey did is going to be the way it is because those kids love Mayor Bailey. I try to say one thing negative and they just shut me down. So if you don't understand, the future's our children. They're the ones that can be our adults. And if you don't focus on them, if you don't tell them all the opportunities they have, like for example, you don't tell a kid entering high school that, hey, you know what? You're going to go to West Point someday. You got to tell them this. You got to sign up for West Point now in the 9th grade so they can tell you what you have to do for the next 3.5 years to get where you need to go. You got to tell these kids now, not wait until they're juniors and seniors and say, what are your plans? So I'm a little bit more observant about that because I am a single dad with 3 kids. Oh, 6 kids, 3 at home.
Are you sure?
Officially, right? If there's any scandal that comes out later, we'll work on it.
Miguel, I want you to know that mental health is something that's very me. This is something that, if I could be on the poster to try to advocate for this, I would. The first thing I would say is, John and Rich are right about opening up the lines of communication. And it starts at home. I think if more parents talk about personal experiences, sometimes we don't even know that this is something that we're dealing with until we say it out loud. If we open up those lines of communication within the home first, then our kids will know when they are ready. Mental health isn't something that, it's fortunate and you're lucky if somebody yells out to you and says, I have a problem. Most of the time, no one says anything, no one knows anything. I know within my family, I sure did. And, you know, I felt like a bad family member when I found out what was going on. I felt like maybe I wasn't there enough. But then after counseling, you learn. There isn't anything that you can do but just be there. So, as far as for like in schools and things like that, we need more therapists, counselors, and not one for every 3 or 4 schools. We need one at each school with administrative help so that they can be there for our children when we can't, when we have to be at work. We share the responsibility with our teachers, you know, and they say, go, tell your teacher, but they can only do so much. So I think if we had licensed therapists.
Thank you so much for your response.
Thank you.
Okay, as far as mental health and the youth is concerned, I did say earlier that I have been a teacher for 22 and a half years. The area of my specialty was specifically alternative ed, so that means for 18 and a half of my years of teaching, I was in the juvenile halls, the community day court schools, and then my last assignment was continuation high school. So if somebody has an observation of the importance of a child's mental health, it's definitely someone that was specialized in the alternative ed arena. And I will say that for the simple fact of the matter is, most people, once kids get to a certain level, and I will just say educational level, they're judged, they're put into a corner, they're painted as, you know, no good doers or, you know, troublemakers. And a lot of that might be connected to the mental health aspect of a child, whether they're from a single parent, whether they're a latchkey child, whether they're an only child. You know, we all, there's an order, a birth order, hierarchy as far as children and families. We should all know that. You know, from the firstborn to the lastborn, everybody kind of has a role. And the idea of mental health and the resources obviously starts with the family, the parents, obviously the clergy. If you're in a religious church or organization, you can turn to, there's always counselors in every single organization that you can turn to. May not be enough resources, and that's kind of the heart of your question was, you know, resources. What can we use as far as resources? There are a lot of resources in the city, there are resources in the county, there are resources within your own church organization and schools as well. You may not be able to pinpoint them exactly where, but if you ask the adults in charge, you can find those resources.
Thank you so much for your response.
Well, did you know that suicide is the second leading cause of death among young adults ages 15 to 24 in our country? Second leading cause of death. I know that, along with my fellow school board trustees know that, because we live and breathe that reality every day. And that's why we've created a model mental health program in our USD schools. I mentioned I was on the Board of Behavioral Sciences. That's the board that oversees all the mental health professionals in the state. I was able to leverage that experience to bring in 27 mental health counselors and 39 social and emotional counselors into our USD. and launch a model program that's known across the state now that other districts are looking at. As part of that, we have something called the Raptor system, and it's a little big brother-ish, but we do monitor our kids' social media and their traffic on social media. We have immediate responses to things that we feel are flags. We had over 900 calls last year at Ramona High School alone for kids for threats of self-harm or suicide. We are now taking that even further. We've established 2 wellness centers at North High School and Ramona High School, and we are working with our community to get additional dollars from our healthcare, the state, and as well as our community hospitals around here. So I hear you. Mental health is an issue. It's not just in vogue. It's something we've been dealing with for a long time. And in fact, I did write an op-ed on this piece, on this issue. It was in the Press Enterprise in January of 2018. So I encourage you all to please go read that. You'll see more about my views on that. Thank you.
Obviously a very complex question, but how do we deal with it as a city council member, or how do we deal with it as a mayor? That's the question. How is it that we as a city government have to deal with mental illness? Having had the opportunity to work gang intervention, some of the individuals had some mental illness issues, true mental illness issues. But part of that really has to be identified by the parent, and they have to have a level of awareness of some of the initial symptoms and be able to identify the treatment that the individuals need to go to and make sure that their child is monitored and also connected with their physicians. But what does that mean for the city? What obligation do we have as a city? One of the things that I did in 2008 was make sure that our police department had mental health training to identify if a potential suspect was either under drugs or whether they were off their medication or were having just a mental episode. What has happened is that in some instances, that has led to suspects being shot if they were off their medication. I cannot tell you how important it is for city governance to understand the matter and partner with the county mental health, to make sure that our citizens are protected at every level. Our department has done a fantastic job with that. We have seen the weaknesses in other departments in other cities, but our department has been fantastic, and I think it's important that we continue to strengthen that training, not only in our police department, but also code enforcement and other public safety departments.
Thank you.
The second question will be asked by Luis Morales from Ramona High School. Luis Morales. And please hold your applause until the end.
Good evening, everyone, and I am Luis Morales, and I am from Our Lady of Perpetual Help and a student at Ramona High School. The question is, what would you propose the city do now to reduce the negative impact of our carbon footprint on the environment?
I'm a former horticulturist, and what does that mean to you or me? It means I love plants. One of the reasons why I selected Riverside back in 2000 to live is we have a lot of trees. The thing is Riverside has a program every year to give away free trees. Most people don't know about it, or most people think it's too hard to get. I'm up to about 6 trees now. Now I'm a renter. I don't even own it. I just plant trees in people's yards and I water it. They don't care because they don't even know where it came from. I'm kind of like the guy that just plants and runs. And every year I see it grow. So I'm already doing my part. actually an advocate. I do all kinds of silly stuff in the city. It's all legal. Always in front of cameras. Always somebody knows about it. I always ask for permission. You know, there's a lot of, in the older sector areas, there's citrus trees. And the fruit's right there on the tree. And you go knocking on the door, it's always some elderly lady or a guy. You think, can I have your citrus? She goes, go ahead, have it all. I take those citrus, and then, you know, one of our poorer sectors is our Lanza in Arlington. You turn over the fruit. Probably shouldn't tell it because Golden Boy students are going to come watch me tomorrow. But that's another thing. Once I'm mayor, churches are going to have their rights as a sovereign. You should be able to feed your congregation. Don't call them homeless, okay? I'm the kind of guy that reads things and says, oh, don't call them homeless people. Call them your congregation. You're feeding your congregation. Then the code enforcement in the city is going to have to figure out another way to punish you, right? So churches should be able to, when you walk over to St. Catherine's here, if you want to feed me, don't feed me corn out of a cooler. That's just degrading. So I have a lot about this, but City Hall gives you 3 minutes. They only give you 2 minutes here. You guys are hard. You're a tough crew. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Louise, for that question. There are so many things that we can do. The one thing that we might not be able to do is spend a whole bunch of money on this. So we need to find cost-effective, efficient ways to kind of change the way things operate here. Clean energy. We need to look at our landfills and how we are coming to a point where they're becoming overloaded, and what we have in place now isn't enough to keep things moving cleanly. Our city is huge on, you know, bringing the monarch butterflies and planting the gardens. They have ask a master gardener. I think you can go and I don't have a green thumb, so I won't be participating in that, you know, part of it. But I do have some ideas on how we can move forward as far as utilizing clean energy and changing the way we do some things in town in a cost-effective way.
Okay, I believe the question has to do with how can the city impact the negative carbon footprint and what can be done on this topic. Obviously, you all probably seen the city buses that drive throughout Riverside, and you must know that they're running on alternative fuels. Obviously, there is one of the most major air-wind operations as far as power down here in Palm Springs. I think these alternative ways of powering the city are good means and good examples of ways that we can obviously affect the carbon footprint within our city. I think just the nature of this forum and the idea that the youth is interested in these topics, I think is the most important key in that question. Because what that means is you as a young person coming up can make a bigger impact on your civic leaders, and maybe even you one day can run for public office and make a bigger impact on that. I think as youth, we go in, and I remember one of the reports that I did for my composition class in high school, my senior composition class, was the hole in the ozone layer. That was a real big thing back in the 80s. And honestly, as an adult, I've kind of like lost track of that topic. But the idea that the youth, as you come up and as you get informed, please be informed about all these topics. Because the bottom line is we, as the older folks, are going to be dependent upon you to make sure that the impacts that either we begin or that you carry forward will continue. So that's my answer.
Thank you for that question. I'm an environmental scientist by training, so I have spent my entire professional career in this space, and I spent a lot of time worrying about what kind of planet we're leaving Luis and his friends. It's very upsetting. My own children, I have 3 kids, they're worrying about it constantly. So as for what we can do, we all know kind of the standard stuff, right? Get more cars off the road. What cars are on the road? We need to make sure they're using alternative fuels. We need to encourage more transit-oriented development, so we need cluster development around transit centers so that people are not getting in their cars every day. We also need to increase the city's portfolio use of renewable energy, and full disclosure, my husband works for a big solar utility, of course. And we also need to make sure that we are, believe it or not, planting more trees. Trees actually make a significant impact on heat islands, and there's been research done at UCLA and other places that show us that more trees can actually offset not only the carbon, but the heat effect that causes our global warming. But the other thing that's kind of interesting that you may not think about, actually one of the biggest problems or biggest things that affect our environment and global warming in general and energy is water and water use. So as we encourage folks to take shorter showers and recycling water, we're actually helping our environment in more ways than just conserving water. It actually conserves energy as well. And the governor's office has a big initiative right now to do tree planting as a volunteer effort. And I just met with them and Esri, the GIS guys out in Redlands, to talk about giving every student a little seedling, a little tree. So it's kind of fun. Thank you.
I'll tell you about some of the things we're doing already. First of all, if you get your utility bill in March or April, they offer you a free shade tree. Please take advantage of that every year. Those are some of the things that will lower the carbon footprint. The old dump site that we used to have off of Tekiski, we're taking some of the methane gas and utilizing that to power our water treatment plant. We also have grease to gas, so we're taking restaurant grease and also converting it into gas to power our water treatment plants. And now we have the organic food waste. We're going to be doing that in-house and want to convert that into more energy to fuel our water treatment plant. Those are just a few things. But when you think about city planning, I'm part of the Riverside Transit Agency. One of the things that we did was we took every college student and university student, they can all ride the bus for free. We have 170 to 180,000 boardings per month of only students. But what we also need to do is we need to think about more walkable, more bikeable communities. And how we can start that is by taking our main corridors, whether it be University Avenue, Magnolia, and some of the other corridors that are highly traveled, and build higher density housing on those. When we do that and create those access to other retail and other types of services, you lower the amount of time you're in a vehicle. What we're having the most difficulty in is having individuals have that change of thought from getting into their vehicle, saying it's only a 15-minute drive when they buy their house to work. We've got to start thinking about how closely can we buy a property next to a bus route or next to a train station. We're also developing our transit-oriented development at our Metrolink station.
All right. Okay, just to kind of catch everyone up to speed, what Mr. Deniloff did there was he took the microphone, basically because in a lot of forums we go in a descending order. It gives every candidate a chance to answer in a different order. So I appreciate John doing that. Getting back, and that's a great question, and actually it's one a lot of us really don't think about, the carbon footprint. So having a last name of Gardner, this is right up my alley. And of course, a lot of people don't like the drought resistant or succulents, but I love it. It's a wonderful way get a surprise like once or twice a year when a flower pops up. Definitely a lot more water-wise than some of our other greenery. I would love to see our medians throughout the city done with more drought-resistant stuff, and I had a meeting with City Works, and I guess they had a program going at one point, and the funding stopped, so they had to stop doing it. Oddly enough, you might notice that the grass is dying on a lot of those medians. It's because they're not allowed to water the grass anymore. They're allowed to water the tree. So there's a lot of stuff going on here in this city, and I've been doing my work trying to meet with different city officials to answer your question a little more thoroughly. Honestly, we all probably know someone that commutes. So right there, we're wasting a lot of energy, gas, time. So we need to create more local jobs in order to reduce that. We need to encourage carpooling for people that are commuting somehow. By all means, turn off the lights if you're not using them. And Patricia was right. No reason to waste water if you don't need to waste it, especially if you live up in Ward 4 and you're in the Metropolitan Water District. It gets very expensive. And by all means, shop smartly. Don't buy more food than you need because you're going to be throwing it away. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Before we continue, I'd like to apologize for the inconvenience. The questions will be answered in order of arrival, so from the left to the right. Oh, no, that's fine. Okay, never mind. We're going to do the rotation. My bad. Okay, but our third question will be asked by Haley Zimmerman.
Good evening, my name is Haley Simmons. I am a member of Our Lady of Perpetual Help, and I'm a student at Notre Dame. So I myself come from a low-income family. Attending a private school sets my family back, and simply being able to live in Riverside is a sacrifice for my family. And also, a lot of people also have to sacrifice for their children too, to simply live here and to provide for their family. So with my question, I ask, how would you ensure growth in high-quality jobs and affordable housing so that young people can have a future in Riverside?
Thank you, Haley. I also grew up in low-income housing. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Gardens Apartments off of the freeway up off of Iowa Lane. That's where I grew up. That's where I met a lot of the people that I'm still friends with today. The first thing I would do is, the first thing we should do is revisit eligibility requirements for a lot of the programs that we have available, so that if we can, take the burden off a little bit on one end of something, then you can put that money towards something else for your family, for your household. As far as creating new jobs, one of the things that I do want to bring back to bring more revenue to the city are the big music festivals. Now, the rumor was people got too drunk, and it just wasn't a good idea, but no one's to say that we can't have a dry festival of gospel music. There's so many different ways we can go with this to build revenue. And one of the things that we can do is offer those jobs to residents first. Once we have fulfilled, as much as we can using our residents first, then we can open up the job to everyone else. I think we deserve that since this is our city. Then no one can say there's nothing out there, there's no work out there. Through the schools, we need to come up with more incentives to bring our students who go off to college to come back and start their businesses, their private practices. And I would have to do a lot of research to figure out how we could incentivize that, but these are things that we can do. Thank you.
Okay, just to be fair, I don't think I heard the whole question, but I ensure jobs and ensure that people can stay here. Is that correct? Did I miss any? Yeah, please. Sorry.
So my question was, how would you ensure growth in high-quality jobs and affordable housing so that young people can have a future in Riverside?
I hate to keep emphasizing the fact that I was a teacher for 22 and a half years, but this just tickles me because the idea that youth would be so cognizant to think about these high-reaching questions is just very rewarding for me. I'm very happy that I was able to be here, and I'm happy to hear these questions because this is what we call in education higher level thinking. As far as being a lifetime resident of Riverside, I can honestly tell you I grew up in a lower middle class family. Father was retired from the Air Force, so we also spent many of years standing in line for government cheese. And I can honestly say as far as low income housing, that's obviously a very big issue around the whole entire state. This also plays into the issue, the earlier question that we had on mental health. It has to do with the idea of economy that's leaving a lot of our youth and a lot of our adults behind. This is a very important issue for so many reasons because the stability of our family starts at home. And when we have a lot of people that don't even have the ability to have income to afford a home and are living in their cars, it's a very sad statement on our community. But finally, all I can tell you is if you elect me as mayor, I will do everything in my powers to connect the youth and encourage education and work on the topics of low-income housing and encouraging people to bring jobs here so that we can employ them so that there will be higher paying jobs to ensure that. So thank you for the question.
So that is a huge question, and there's lots of different aspects you can come at that. But let's talk about the jobs first. So I think we need to increase job opportunities across the spectrum. So for not just college graduates, but also highly skilled labor, we have to make sure that our businesses in town actually have the labor force that they need to fill the jobs that they have. My understanding is we have 400 manufacturers within the city of Riverside. Many of them do not have access to the labor that they need to fill those positions. So we need to have additional training, much like we did in the school district. When I came on the board, we had 3 career technical ed programs. We now have 43, and those come with apprenticeships and internships. So, and we have worked with the Workforce Development Board to ensure that we are matching skills to our employers. The other part of the question is our college graduates. 60,000 kids, 60,000 students in Riverside. What are we doing for them when they come out of school? We need to encourage outside investment. We need to bring in new jobs into the region. Particularly, I think our innovation corridor between UCR and downtown is going to be a good place to start. We need to provide access to capital for entrepreneurs and folks wanting to start businesses. But we can't do any of it, and nothing will go anywhere if we don't invest in our infrastructure and make our city beautiful and attractive so that people want to come here and businesses want to come here. And we also just need to provide more high quality entertainment and restaurants, and that comes about as well. Thank you.
When we think about economic growth, I think as mayor, you have to take a broader vision or a broader view of what you can do. A few of the things that we have not taken advantage of are our medical field. We have wonderful hospitals here. We have Riverside Community Hospital. We have Kaiser Hospital. We have Regional Hospital. We also have Loma Linda Hospital and other hospitals in San Bernardino County. I think it's important that we take full advantage of those resources and create what we call a strategic plan. When you're able to create a strategic plan and bring all those entities together, you start identifying the needs. and you start bringing in attention into what you're doing as a community. And through that discussion and through that arrangement, you start identifying centers like cancer centers or cardiology centers, or those types of clinics that are going to really benefit our communities. And I mentioned communities because the entire Inland Empire is short of medical services, and we need to bring more of those to our area. Most of us will go to LA or Orange County, but we need these specialists here. And I think by developing a strategic plan, we can create those jobs. The second, Riverside is the court system, the court center of the entire Inland Empire. We have state, we have federal, we have all the county courts here, and we have no medical school. We need to be able to coordinate that again and create and develop, I'm sorry, not a medical school, the law school. Oh, what am I doing? The law school. We need to create a law school. We have a medical school, we have no law school. But what that does, it starts generating interest in the area, and we start getting more of the legal field here in our community. I think we have not taken advantage of those two. We also have a great opportunity in the financial area. Thank you.
First of all, those are great questions, Haley. And one of the beauty about these public forums and discussions is that we actually had one at the Mission Inn, and I was actually the last one to speak on this issue. And I mentioned that we need more medical professional training in Riverside. So one great thing about this is whoever wins this, it's been thrown out there that we need this. A lot of people may or may not know, but UCI, the UC system in Irvine, has their own hospital. It would be really great if UC Riverside could have their own hospital as well. Getting back to high quality jobs, we really need to focus on jobs, to be honest with you, whether they're high quality or not. Getting one thing will lead to another. As I'm trying to emphasize to everyone, I've been really working hard on this. And one of the first things that dawned on me, because I cared for a great guy named Ken Chevron, and his wife had a grandson that was going to linesman school in Idaho. And I'm like, how much does that cost? And it's like $45,000 to send a person to a trade school. So I made a phone call to Eric Smith over at Magnolia Heating and Cooling, and I said, how much does it cost to send someone to a trade school for air conditioning? Again, $45,000. So what we need to do is we need to have a partnership with the city, and I hope this sticks because that's the whole point of this. We need to have a partnership with local businesses and the city. Supplement that $45,000. I don't know about you guys out there, but that would break my piggy bank. It really would. My son or daughter might not have that opportunity. We need to create opportunities. As far as affordable housing, that's a lot more than 15 seconds. But tax breaks, incentives, we need to relax zoning issues. We need to engage big techs, and I think that my time is up. But there's a lot of things we can do to create affordable housing. Thank you.
Okay, first thing I want to tell you young folks to do, as soon as you can, leave Riverside. I was in Bellflower, I left Bellflower. I'm going to tell you, once you leave, you can't wait to come home. Because I'm telling you, I was an immigrant, came from Vietnam, came to America, I loved it. All of a sudden I decided, you know what, I can't do college, I can't even speak English, so I joined the military. So I go overseas, I couldn't wait to come home. You know, because there's nothing better than the United States of America. That's probably why all of us are right here running for mayor. Because this place here, I'm on Section 8, I'm on Social Security. It only costs $25 to run for mayor. Isn't that awesome? And then I can buy my kids any Christmas money so I can pay the $250 for the electronic little thing, but nobody's reading it, right? So I'm putting it everywhere on Facebook. So yeah, young folks, please leave. I'll tell you what, let me give you a prime example. People are going to start thinking like Mayor Bailey, even though I've been trying to work it where I'm like against them. Mayor Bailey left the city of Riverside to go to West Point. Do you guys know what West Point is? Once you're an officer, you say like you're an ROTC officer, you're always in the congressional rank. Well, West Point officers, the cream crop, right? Then guess what happened to him? He got back. He became mayor, right? So the thing is your experiences is what you need. A lot of our police officers are Marines, Army, military kind of guys. So it is better for you to go out and go as far as you can. You get a college that accepts you out in the middle of Alaska, take it. Because that way you come back, you'll learn how to teach us how to get water, how to make igloos and snows. But if we all just stay here, what are we going to do? Just do the same things the guy next door to us do. Nothing, right? So when I'm mayor, I'm going to try to get rid of all of our kids, but at the same time, I'm going to show them we can come back. Let me show you what we have.
Thank you. So our fourth question will be asked by Andrew Telvin from Notre Dame High School.
Hello, how's everybody doing? Glad to see all y'all here tonight. I've been walking around the room with my friend's mom, had a nice conversation with her, having a good night out here. Hope y'all are too. My question to the candidates is, how would you implement job internship programs and life skills trainings for youth and others who struggle with employment and underemployment?
Just give me 1 second. I want to read it here. Okay. Again, back to being a teacher. Young people really need to understand the power of education. There's nothing better. When I went off to UC Santa Barbara, I told you, I was unprepared for a UC education. Coming from Harupa Valley to major UC in Santa Barbara was a culture shock. I haven't really mentioned much about my ethnicity, but I was born to a multi-ethnic family. My mom was married to a Caucasian male. She's also Caucasian. He was in the Navy. My father was African American. He was in the Air Force. It's very, very important on the topic of interning. We have lots of programs and lots of small businesses within the city of Riverside that I think maybe as mayor I can try and help tap more into the local businesses. I'm a small business owner myself. To create those types of opportunities for youth, because I know I never really had an opportunity to intern, didn't even know what that meant. So that's a very important thing within the educational system. If we can tap into the education system along with small business, that would give a whole lot more internship opportunities for you in the city. Let's see. And I think that will pretty much take care of the employment issue, because if you have people who are basically shadowing small business owners, whether they're even interested or understand that industry or that business, that will give them an enlightened, informed experience in order to have a more valuable experience overall. So as mayor, maybe I can do that. I don't know if that's possible, but that's my answer.
So I kind of touched on this in my previous answer, but I think what we really need to do is have some sort of coordinated strategy to ensure that our students are getting jobs and they're staying here. And I would propose doing some type of youth opportunity task force that is comprised of not just the city governments, but small businesses, chamber of commerce, our trade unions, and our universities and our community college. And what we need to do is have do an analysis of our workforce needs, what do folks need to work, and also our labor, our employer needs. And we need to launch training programs. Now that's not that difficult, because there are already a lot of training programs that exist already. We partner at the school district with many of the trades to do this already. We have apprenticeship programs, And we have articulation agreements up through our junior colleges with RCC and Norco College. Kids who come out of there can walk straight into an apprenticeship and a high-paying job in a career that has upward mobility. But that's not at all what it takes, because what you did say was that people who struggle to stay employed. So it's not just enough to give somebody the training, they need the support. Everything we've seen tells us that people only succeed when they have somebody in their corner. If you do not have the social supports and the training involved, not just the actual job training, but the social skills training, nobody will succeed. So that needs to be an element of that.
Probably one of the more difficult things to do is to try to coordinate those services for non-government agencies. While I was working with the individuals in trying to get them jobs, we had something we called the targeted job tax credit that the employer would benefit from. And it was very difficult for those smaller employers to take the time to train individuals. They're so pressured for time, business is a challenge. So I understand small business, me being a small business owner myself, it really is a challenge to set up those internships. I believe that we probably have a better opportunity in coordinating a task force with some of the mid-size and larger businesses and trying to create those corridors for the internships. When we think about doctors, or we think about individuals completing their medical school and going to do their internships in hospitals, that's even a challenge for them. The hospitals don't get 100% placement. Imagine somebody with no skills getting 100% placement. Extremely difficult. It does have to be a well-coordinated effort between not only government, but some of our nonprofits and some of our larger companies and some of our mid-sized companies who are able to arrange those corridors for opportunities for our youth. We do have programs for our underemployed youth or individuals that need extra support. We have, as an example, I opened up a youth opportunity center in 2008 in our East Side community, and that does exactly that. Provides a support staff for the at-risk youth who have completed high school or on the verge of completing high school to help them with that transition to a community college or to a vocational program. But these types of internships, they're extremely difficult, but it will take a lot of work with a lot of individuals to make sure that these are successful. We know that the state of California has some work skill enforcement projects, but I think we still have to work at it a lot harder. Thank you.
Anyway, thank you for the question, Lewis. It's an important one. It kind of parlays into another question we're probably going to talk about later, which would be homelessness. And it's important that people work. It doesn't matter what you're doing. As I mentioned earlier, the gentleman at Magnolia Heating and Cooling has been trying to get an internship program going for years now and has had like zero luck. I can tell you by doing this Winterfest thing for the Arlington Business District, I met a guy named Russell. He works at Les Schwab Tires, and he was very happy that Notre Dame High School is going to start being trained on how to work with auto mechanics. So I think the key is going to be communication. The businesses need to let the city know what they want. The city needs to be able to listen. And I think tonight, this was actually a beautiful example of communication. We started out with a program where we were going to go this way. And Mr. Deniloff said, let's do it this way. And even though the young lady moderating said we need to do it this way, we came to a middle ground. So I think just, once again, keeping the communication open, and also, because of my wife, I want to say it's very important that no matter what people are doing, that you lift them up. That checker that's ringing you up at Stater Brothers might be having a bad day, but take a second and just tell them, hey, I appreciate what you're doing. Encourage everybody, no matter what line of work they're in, even if they're driving the truck and picking up the garbage, take a minute to bring them a water. And that's about it. We can do this together.
You know, $750 for a one-bedroom apartment in Vegas. It's on the kind of bad side of town, but that's the point. The point is, there's 4 kids. One of my biggest things is I want every kid that graduates high school to have a driver's license. Okay? You have a driver's license, you have power. What it is these kids can go to Vegas. It's only 3.5 hours if you drive, extremely fast. 4.5 hours if you just drive moderate. But you can make so much tip money just being a valet, going to college at RCC and UCR. So we just have an apartment. Maybe we'll register as Riverside and have these kids just work 3 days a week over there in Vegas and making $1,000 and come back here going to college. So these are the things that we're going to do. It's out of the box way of thinking, but it's bringing back our money back here. It's like a lot of our immigrants in our lands area, they work hard and they send their money back to Mexico. Well, let's take that concept, work these kids hard in Vegas, and then bring back the money in Riverside to spend. Okay? So that's how I do it. Did you guys know Riverside County Sheriff's Department? I guess maybe it went past. But I always talk to the guys, the kids at the fast food. I've got 3 kids, just to make sure it's correct. I have 6 total. 3 are adults, 31, 28, and 18. I was illegitimate bastard. All right? And so, you see, English is my second language. So, I always make sure as a soldier, I account for all my kids. But bottom line is this, folks. I tell these kids, he says, hey, why don't you apply for the Sheriff's Department? And they're like, I hate cops. I said, so what? So do I. Just apply, because it's a union job, get plenty of money. And I said, okay, really? You don't like cops? Be a janitor. You're still a union in the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, making tons of money. And then you can still flip them off on the way out and into the work. It's all legal. Thank you.
It's so hard to go out. But, so I think that, we do already have a lot of good programs available for our youth to participate in. I really think we need to take this back just a little bit farther with, you remember home economics? I did the cooking and cleaning sewing home economics. I wish to God somebody would have talked to me about credit, okay? Because knowing about credit and appreciating it is what's gonna help you, help our youth to understand how important these jobs are once we get them. Okay, and I see, there's a gap there where that's not really being taught, I don't think, as well as it should be. So I'd like to go back and just put back into the schools, start with the schools with those programs so that they're prepared for those jobs that will be available, because we're growing so much every day. We'll have some jobs available. Auto shop, awesome. Mental health can also be triggered by the expectations of other people. Some students are not academic. Some like to work with their hands. Some feel the pressure of having to go through high school and be academic, and they're like frizzled by the end of their high school term. I think if we had more opportunities within the schools, that would open up, I think our bigger corporations and everything, once they see that and they see that these children are being trained and ready for them.
Thank you. Y'all have a good night. See you around.
Okay, and now for our 5th and final community questionnaire, Mary Vargas.
So let me just start with a few statistics. At our last point in time count in the city of Riverside, we had 439 individuals were counted as homeless. Of those, 18% suffered from mental health problems, 24% had addiction problems, another 18% had a physical disability, and 30% of those who were homeless had just become homeless for the first time last year. And the fastest growing demographic of people who are homeless are single women over 50. Now I give you these data because they give us a roadmap, right? They give us a strategy. They tell us where we need to spend our resources. I think to date, Housing First has been a strategy. It's been working, but we also need to go beyond that. We need to do more. We need to do three things. First, we need to just build more housing across the spectrum, and that includes more permanent supportive housing. We need to fight for our fair share of federal and state funding. We don't get our fair share here, and that needs to go towards not just housing, but services, social services, mental health services. And finally, we need to make sure that we've got working with our cities and our county and our neighbors around us to provide a regional strategy for addressing it. I've been part of a coalition of inter-city coalition between 17 cities and 3 counties that works on the Santa Ana River to address not only water quality issues and recreational issues, but also homeless issues. We've been very effective because we leverage our resources and we work together. So I would continue to bring that coalition, and I would also expand it to continue providing additional services.
That question kind of looks like my response online for the youth, because I have been really focused on making sure that we address the homeless issue on a regional basis, that we all equally be responsible for the homeless in our community. When you look at the community, or when you look at the homeless shelter, we were given a statistic in December that 71% of the individuals in our homeless shelter were from out of town. Isn't that amazing? 71%. Now the individuals that need housing, I believe we're on the right track to assist those that need housing. But the individuals that we don't talk about are those that we see on the street all the time. We see them pushing the carts. We see them acting crazy on the street, off their medication or on the medication or on the drugs. We really need to focus on those individuals that in many times have been brought and dropped off in our city. Sometimes they've been dropped off by nonprofits. Sometimes they've brought in by law enforcement from another city, taken to emergency treatment services, left there for a 72-hour hold, and then just released on our streets when their 72-hour hold is over. They can't get back. They have no way to get back, so they create their connections here. We have to work with the county to make them understand that a couple things have to happen. They have to pick them up after they've dropped them off. Or we start arranging satellite services in and around the other cities to make sure there's an equal share of how we're dealing with the homeless population. We understand that it's important to work with the individuals. We understand that sometimes they have family members to go back to, but the family members, after a certain period of time, have really run out of options for themselves. I believe the state needs to work with us to find locations to help them and provide their support services.
Well, absolutely, this is the #1 question in the city. And one of the things I've been blessed to be able to do, being retired, is to be able to spend time digging in to see what's going on. So we have what's called a PSET team, Public Safety Engagement Team in the city of Riverside. I had the opportunity to go out with them one morning before I played bridge, because that's what us retired people do. And it was eye-opening. I mean, to be honest with you, one red flag to me was that we outsourced the 2 individuals that are offering services from the city of Anaheim. So that goes back to creating jobs locally. I really don't understand that, but there's got to be some qualified people in the city of Riverside that can help out. Basically, we approached roughly 15 people. Not one of them wanted services. And to me, the most eye-opening thing was when we were driving up to one gentleman who was walking hurriedly past, away from us. And the nice lady from the PSAT team said, "Excuse me, sir, would you like to go to a shelter?" And he said, "That's the last place I want to go. I've been clean and sober for 3 days now." So that's a red flag to me. If people are getting high at the shelter, then we need to address that. Whether it's with a K-9 unit that seeks out people at the shelter that are on drugs and dealing. Ms. Dawson presented some interesting figures as far as those that are on drugs, those that have mental illness. Bottom line is, it's sad. The whole situation is extremely sad. And another thing that caught my attention was when asked what kind of a program there is for people that are going to be placed, there basically is no program right now. So we need to go back to ground zero, for lack of a better term, and have a program for those that are homeless to get them clean and sober.
Thank you for your response.
All right, I apologize to the sign language guy here, but I only got 2 minutes to do this, and this is really, really important for me. I don't want homeless people, I don't care if they're drug addicts or mentally ill, in parks, around people's houses, around churches, around anything, unless they're in the church, okay? I don't want them in businesses hanging out in 99-cent store asking me for 5 cents when I'm counting my pennies to buy something, all right? So we've always had homelessness. In the old days, the way the cities handled homelessness was, we had citrus trees, we had fruits, people would pick it and eat it, so they weren't hungry. Homeless people don't need an empty house. What homeless people need is a bathroom, a place to clean up. Well, if we keep building these public buildings, their bathroom doors need to be outside. So that way they can walk in, take a shower, then come right into the library to sit all day, which they're completely allowed to do so. We have to just change how we do business, so that way we accommodate. Because if you have a homeless person that smells nice, you don't care. Some homeless guy told me the other day, he says, "I would go to your church if there was a place I could secure my shopping cart." Well, it's irrelevant to the State of Brothers shopping cart. What's relevant is he really wants to be able to walk away from his storage unit. So we need to create places where we can go lock it up, let him lock it up, let him go away so he feels safe to be able to go, get cleaned up, and mingle into society like he's one of us. And then maybe he has an epiphany and realize, hey, I can get cleaned up, I can get sober, I get clean, I can do stuff. But right now we look at homeless people as something bad. I don't like drug addicts, so I don't like to call homeless people drug addicts. Remember in 1920, the Depression hit 1930? If there's a lot of people coming from other states coming to California, that's a sign for us to prepare for doom and gloom. And how do we do that? Start now. Helping families.
All right, so the one thing that every city does when the word homeless is said is build more houses, which is fine. Because if it wasn't for low-income houses, I'm not sure where I would have grown up, you know? Thank you so much, Patricia, for those statistics. That is a good way for us to be able to see how homelessness needs, there's different categories of it. You have people who are willing to be helped, who want to be helped, who fit the eligibility requirements to live in a low-income home. You know, you have some people who might need a little more help to get in there. I think that's when we need to start revisiting the requirements so that we can get more people into the low-income housing. But what I don't really hear is what we can do for people who don't want the help, who want to live, who want to be homeless. So that's why, I don't know if you follow my Facebook or anything like that, but I am promoting safe camps using state and federal funded land on the outskirts of Riverside to safely let people live the way they want to, but away from the businesses, so that when we're trying to just go have dinner with our family, we don't have to worry about being, asked for money, because sometimes that money that we had for that dinner, that's all we had, So we really, really, really have to look into what we can do for safety, because if the federal government has to step in and do this because of the river bottom and the urine and feces that's down there, and it becomes a CDC thing, it won't be good. So we need to take hold of this now, and I'm really, really pushing safe camps. And that way we can consolidate our resources. We know what we're using, we know how much. Thank you.
Okay, so I believe the question was, what is the plan to resolve homelessness? So I'll tackle that part first. Obviously, homelessness didn't happen overnight. We all know that. A couple of the people up here said that homelessness has been an issue for a long, long time. On the topic of people who can be helped, there was a question about housing first, and this is the idea of getting homeless people into a house. Well, obviously we know there's a lot of underlying issues dealing with homelessness. It's not just the fact that somebody's mentally ill. It could be the fact that they don't have a living wage in order to pay for a house to live in the first place, and that's why they're living in their car. So I do have a plan to work with homelessness, and that plan is called Rusty Bailey. As you all know, Mayor Bailey is going to be leaving the mayor office to go work, what's the name of the church? Path of Life, as administrator over the programs they have with the homelessness. I want to tap into him. Obviously, if he was the mayor of our city for 2 terms, he's not going to leave us behind as far as this issue. So I want to tap into the one big expert that we're all trying to take the seat of to help me with that. I mean, that's one of the biggest things. This guy's been working on this topic for a long time. So I think that's one thing that I learned in education, is that administrators get to this point where I'm the guy, I'm the big honcho, I'm in charge, and all you teachers and all you classified people, I don't care what you know and your experience, I'm going to do it my way, or it's the highway. Well, the bottom line is I'm willing to work with Rusty if he's willing to work for us continually from the standpoint as mayor. The last part of that was, would you work with local government, cities, to work on regional solutions? Well, yes, obviously. The bottom line is all these areas around us are kind of the cause and the continuation of our homelessness problem. So if we don't work with them, how are we going to solve it? So yes, I would do that.
We have selected 4 audience questions, and we will resume at 8:20. Taking a short break.
if I may ask?
Organization, ICUC.
Oh, okay. They used to have meetings here. I used to go to them. There's a gal, I forgot her name, was a Y Yvette or something. She had a position with them. It was kind of funded for a couple of years, and then it ran out, so she had to leave. Yeah. But they used to have meetings here, I think usually bi-weekly for a couple of years. They used to have
I just started.
Give me a quick second. George, which is...
Hey.
Look-alike. Yeah, so good luck with your mayoral run. It's exciting. I mean, you must have lots of time to dedicate to it. But I appreciate your answers, and it's nice to see that our panel is a little more diverse. People of color, women. I was a little bit disappointed that our Democratic presidential choices have narrowed so much, but I think also but it's definitely must have been a way for you to really get out there and get to know some people. Right. And I mean, well, and you know, one of my questions with the whole idea of improving jobs is all of these brick and mortars, big secrets, all of these businesses that are closing down. So I don't know if that's just a societal change that we're going to have to figure out what to do about that.
Just introduce yourself to him.
So these things are
When I was in it, there was a Woolworths in the plaza, and I sat down at the lunch counter.
When it was open, yeah.
Yeah, but when it was open, and then it was closed, and then it was open. But my very first job was at Carl's Jr. right there on University, when I was a North High School student.
What time is it? I want to ask another question. Are you able to have go in there? Are you sure you can
Gotcha.
Well, no,
Well,
so
I
that
need
can
the changes on the school. All right, yeah. It's going to be for
like, that's what I
Well, thank you for your Oh, I'm not liking it yet. Maybe when they start again, everybody should say their name again. I don't know. You are the future. You need to get your name out there so people know who to vote for. No. Encore High School.
Do you have time to meet tomorrow? Huh? What's your calendar like? Schedule like?
Honestly, don't know. My phone's up there recording live right now.
As an art teacher, it's always the visual
Now
the home ec and wood shop and auto shop are all gone.
I'll let you know if I'm not.
Okay. Put it down and then you confirm with me if I can or can't. Once you look at your thing.
What do you want to meet about?
I just want to, catch up on what you're doing and
I'm so sorry for those poor kids.
do together and shit like that. I should be doing it once a week. I should be meeting with you. And kind of like letting, shift in. Yeah, but I want to make it like really regular. And with Christian and with Matt and with you and with, so.
Sounds good.
1 p.m. You got it.
Text me. Just text me.
All right.
7 p.m.
Okay.
I'll remember.
All right. There you go. Now wait on.
Hello, everybody. If you can all return to your seats, please. We are about to begin.
I think they said they're going to let them stay.
If everybody could please return to their seats so we can resume. Thank you.
Hi, Aurora.
Hi there.
Well, thank you, everybody. So we have selected 4 questions from the audience, and we'll have youth leaders come up to ask them. Our first leader to ask our first question is Yesenia.
I'm asking this question on behalf of the deaf community. As mayor, what will you do to promote and advocate for the deaf community?
A few things. I spoke about diversity and I spoke about inclusion early in some of my opening statements. And individuals of all backgrounds need to be accepted, but we need to speak intentionally about them, basically telling them how important they are for our community. As I was growing up, one of my friends, his name is Bruce Gould. I don't know if you know Bruce. If you worked at California School for the Deaf, you probably knew him. Was one of my best friends. We communicated on a regular basis. I don't speak sign language other than a few yeses and nos and a few other things. But it was a matter of how do we make each other feel comfortably. And you need to speak intentionally about who the individuals are, given the cultural background, given the disability background, because I do work with individuals with disabilities, and make them feel part of our community. One of the things that I've advocated for at the city was having an international relations office, because we need to be reaching out to all our communities of every ethnic background, of every culture, of every type of impairment or disability. We believe it's extremely important. I have a program called Good Neighbor Riverside that I do on YouTube. If you look up Good Neighbor Riverside YouTube, about 2 episodes ago, we went out to the Center of Deafness Inland Empire and we did an interview with them. And these are older adults, generally retired, who meet on a regular basis to communicate with each other. Those types of groups are extremely important to the adults, but they're also important to our city. And we want to make sure that they are included in everything that we do. Closed caption is great, a variety of other things we can do, but I think making that connection is so important.
I guess the very first thing I would do is to try to reach out to them. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't really reached out to the deaf community on this campaign trail. I did have a friend of ours, her name is Melinda Klum, do a sign language little video encouraging people to vote, much like I had the nice Hispanic lady back there doing a video to encourage people to vote. So the first thing I would do is to make myself accessible to them to find out exactly what it is that's lacking. I think in life we learn a lot by listening. Like I said, I could write a book about Alzheimer's disease. If you got a question, please feel free to reach out to me. I've had conversations with different ethnic groups in the city regarding their concerns, and I apologize to our deaf community for not reaching out to you yet, and I will make myself available to you very soon. But the biggest communicator any of us have is right here. It's your smile and your heart and eye contact. So just whether you're deaf, African American, or you have Alzheimer's disease, just communicate with your smile. You're never fully dressed without your smile.
As a taxi driver and guy, I would tell you this: we know the deaf community is a large organization here in the city of Riverside. People come from all over the place to go to school here and live around here. I had a client once back in 2008. His name was Mr. Boyer, and his wife used to be the principal here at the deaf school. So this is a great question because I try to answer every question in my mind on paper, notebook, prepare. What am I going to do for the deaf school? I think, to be honest, I told my now 15-year-old daughter, you need to learn how to speak Spanish and how to do sign language. At one time when she was younger, she did do sign language. So one of the things I'll be doing is that Rich here likes to go to football games everywhere. I'll be your designated mayor for the deaf school. That's what I'm going to be doing, because I'll be honest with you, I don't know what I can do for the deaf school, because the deaf school here is already doing so much for the deaf community all over the world. And if they want to come here and live and work here, go to school here, one of the job things, maybe we can get more people to use sign language, learn sign language, and then expand from that. Because I'm telling you, it's a handicap, a disability is something that they're working on to help people. So there's a street on Marcy Library. There's a street there where we have deaf sign. There's deaf kids on that street and a big beautiful tree. I don't know what it is, but it's better than using Arlington if you're trying to get all the way across to like Madison. I use that street all the time. So that's all I know about the deaf schools. I apologize if I haven't researched and done all this stuff, but whoever came up with that question, I love you. It's awesome.
It is a good question. I recently met a new friend, and she is able to sign and speak, and she has all the devices that are needed to make me able to be able to communicate with our deaf community. I just found her, but I invite you all to send me your questions. Tell me what you want. I can't speak for you if I don't know what you need. So I don't really need the whole 2 minutes for that. That's pretty much where it is. I knew I wasn't able to communicate myself unless you want everything in alphabet. So I had to seek somebody who I could find to bridge that gap for me so that I could find out what the deaf community needs. And that's it.
Okay, I believe the question is about what can be done to promote and to advocate for the deaf community. I hate to sound like a broken record, but my very first teaching credential position that I was given was over here at a little elementary school called Victoria Elementary. And I actually had a little girl who was being taken out of 5th grade at the California School of the Deaf and put into my class. She was completely deaf. I had another little girl who was hard of hearing. And so that was a very eye-opening experience for me because I hadn't had any direct contact or dealings with the deaf community up until that point. Now, I said I was born and raised here in Riverside, but you know, I didn't even know what Judaism was, so that just tells you. So the bottom line is, I'm also a teacher, student, parent advocate as far as education is concerned. So if there's somebody who knows something about advocacy, I would be that person. So having had that experience of a whole year teaching a deaf and a hard of hearing student, and actually my house is 1 block away from California School of the Deaf, I would be a very good champion to work with the deaf community, the hard of hearing community, to champion your cause. So if I am elected mayor, I would do everything in my power to embrace that community to whichever level will be most advantageous for the city and the community at large. So that's my answer.
Thank you. It's nice to see some friends here. I guess I would say not necessarily how we can help you or you can be part of the community so much as how can we be part of your community more? And I think that's the question here. The deaf community has a real sense of community. We found this out. My daughters and I all volunteered at the California School for the Deaf through the National Charity League, which is a mother-daughter charitable organization. But we came in, we learned sign language, and my girls got to play and interact with kids from, I think, 1st grade on up into high school. It was such an experience that my oldest daughter went on to have sign language as her language requirement in college. So she is now fluent in sign. And one thing we learned there was what a wonderful, amazing community who do not see themselves as disabled. They're just a community. And I think one of the things we really should do is try to help our own community learn how to communicate better, either through participating in things at the Deaf School. They just had this huge wrestling match. I don't know how many people came from all over from states, other states that came. It was huge. We could participate in those kinds of things and just have fun and interact with our folks. I think also providing us opportunities to learn how to sign and communicate with them is something we should all endeavor to do. So whether or not we're in the ARC or not. So thank you.
So our second leader will be asking the second question. Jada?
Hello. What are your plans to promote businesses in the city of Riverside?
Sorry, what was your name again? Jada, okay. Great question. Honestly, it's one that I haven't really wrapped my head around with yet, but I kind of live by this saying, in real estate, we all know what the 3 L's are. It's location, location, location. Now, when it comes to making something happen, whether it's Alzheimer's awareness or anything, it's the 3 P's in life. It's promote, promote, promote. I love that we have Small Business Saturday, I believe, after Thanksgiving. I love that we have a strong Facebook presence with different groups and stuff. And I think it's time to explore more of the free promotion. And those that have businesses out there can appreciate the word free unless you're giving it to your clients for free. But as far as the businesses go in Riverside, I plan on being a very active mayor. I really do. I don't want to just show up at the 7th floor, clock in, and go home. I want to be able to go to different businesses, have open houses. I want to fundraise for booster clubs out there. I believe in community, and let's face it, the better our businesses do, the better it will be for the employees, the owners, and the citizens. So once again, it's the 3 Ps. Promote, promote, promote. Even if you're running for mayor, you got to promote.
Well, I don't know if you know, but at Del Taco, $3, you do their little survey, you spend $3, you get $1 off. This is how I live. I notice I got this sugar thing back there, so I'm very comfortable because I don't have, my doctor says I shouldn't have sugar, so I don't lie, I just tell them I don't buy sugar, doc. But I got sugar at home from Del Taco. All right? Do you know the norms? A kid gets to eat for free, a kid under 12, so you buy an adult meal, and you get a kid's meal for free. Now, most of you don't know this because you probably have some money. Well, I didn't know this until I lost all my money and got sick and got on cancer, 3 cancers. So I had to start watching my money. So what would I be doing as your mayor for businesses? You're already paying your taxes. You're already paying your fees. I'm going to show up to your restaurant or business. I'm just going to spend my money there. And if it's really good, like Del Taco, who hires felons, I'm going to tell everybody, I shop here, I eat here, all right? If I don't show up to your business, that tells you something. But I don't need to go around spending my time telling you where the negative places are, because most businesses work really hard to try to be successful, especially restaurants, right? So that's what I'll be doing as mayor. What else am I going to do for businesses? I'm going to go to other cities, and I'm going to beg them to come to us. I got no problem begging, because I beg every day. Like the other day, the United Way gives me to the Salvation Army. So right now, it started last Tuesday. You can get $100 off your gas bill. And you're thinking, what kind of guy who's running for mayor knows all these good deals? A poor guy. A guy that, I don't need a job. I'm on Social Security. I'm set, right? I'm set. But once I get this job as mayor, I lose my Social Security. So I'm making a bit of a sacrifice, because what you need right now in this city is somebody who's willing to grovel and beg to keep the city of Riverside going great. Okay? By the way, this is the only suit I own.
Okay, so we have to bring year-round revenue. We got to fill up all these hotels we built, right? Again, I'm back to the music festivals, because when we used to have them, people would come from all over. And if we get to a point where we do a whole weekend thing, how awesome would it be to offer packages like a trolley ride into Casablanca or Alanza to promote that mom and pop Mexican food place that you know is super bomb, like, you know, and then you go home. What does everybody talk about when they go on trips? The food they ate, right? We start there. That's how we were going to promote and bring year-round revenue to Riverside. We have to keep things going. We can't rely on what we have in place now because it's not bringing in enough people. We can also help promote what we have going on now. The Dickens Festival, I do know that some people come from out of town for that one. And, you know, Festival of Lights, but those are the only two that I know of that we can offer to build our revenue for our city, to bring people in and fill up those hotels. And that's it. Thanks.
Okay, the question is, do we have a plan to promote business in the community? I said before, I'm a small business owner, and obviously that's my bread and butter. I mean, I'm a sole proprietorship, so I don't have employees. I am looking for drivers, so if anybody knows anyone interested, and I'm starting them as an intern. So let's see how I wrap that into that question. Also, before, well, I'll just save it for my closing because I don't want to self-promote that way. So we have a lot of resources inside the city. I do have a plan to try and tap into those resources in order to promote business growth within inside the city. I believe Ms. Dawson said that she wants to try and promote the idea of more warehouses. I don't really see the viability in warehouse jobs because no, okay.
I hope not.
The point is, obviously, I want to find jobs that are going to be something that people can climb the corporate ladder or their business ladder, so to speak. I don't want people to just be in a position where all they're doing is they're working $15 an hour. My wife worked at an Amazon warehouse, and she was tired all the time. They did 11.5-hour shifts, 4 days a week, and she was just tired all the time. They have a high turnover rate in those type of warehouse jobs, and the bottom line is I think it's just a dead-end situation because they get used till they're bare to the bone, and then they either get fired or they quit. And they don't get promoted, and they don't find any higher level of promotion in those types of jobs. So whatever resources are available to try and tap into that idea of promoting jobs, growth in Riverside, I'll do my dangest to do that. Okay, thank you.
So really the job of the mayor is to be the voice and the face of the city, right? So this is a really important key point for a mayor to be able to do, is to go out and advocate for your city. Advocate for all manner of issues, funding for homeless, but also outside investment. We need to attract outside investment into our city so that we can have more businesses come in. However, we also have a number of businesses that we already have here. So the best business that you have is the business you already have, right? The concept of economic gardening. We need to grow the businesses you have here. And I was just talking with some small business owners last week who were telling me some of the problems that they're having with being able to thrive is, one, finding space. They don't have space to set up shop. They're also having trouble with city permitting and things taking for a very long time. Even though we have our one-stop shop, it's still not working as well as it could. We need to fix that. And also the big thing, access to capital and investment. Some of our smaller businesses are not able to connect with our more established businesses in town. And we also have a number of really fabulous marketing businesses here that I think could help us get the word out about what a fantastic, wonderful, amazing place Riverside is.
I'll talk a little bit about, well, first of all, I think I mentioned that I've been self-employed now for 37 years. And as we grew, we developed into 3 separate offices and about 20 employees, up to about 23 employees. Legislation changed in 2004 and our business dropped. But promoting businesses, and making a business grow is really twofold. Once you started a business, then it's a matter of understanding how to keep it growing. One of the things that small businesses have a real difficulty with is understanding that once they started it, how long it's going to take them to make a profit. Sometimes it's going to take 3 years and the understanding isn't quite there. So in order to promote a business, they have to have a clear understanding of where their starting point is and where their financials are. They need to have that. SBA, SBDC, Small Business Development Center, the economic development with the county, and even some referrals by the city of Riverside are extremely important to understand how to start that business and keep it going. Once it's starting to develop and go, you need those upper level types of training programs to teach that business understanding what the next steps are. With this world of technology, it really is challenging because things work so fast, but they also work in your benefit if you know how to utilize that technology. Some of the small businesses don't, and they have to understand how to incorporate that and how to make their business grow utilizing that technology. Now, the difference between small pop-up businesses, small startup businesses, and medium-sized businesses is so different. We can talk an hour, hour and a half on this particular item, but I believe that once you show them how to do this, they can be self-promoting.
Unfortunately, it seems that we are out of time for more questions. Oh, okay, never mind. We are asking one more question. So this question will be asked by Haley.
Hello, once again, I'm Haley. And so my question is, Riverside is the 13th largest city in California, but our allocation of state funding does not reflect that. What connections and strategies do you personally have in Sacramento to ensure Riverside receives our fair share?
One thing is, a lot of folks don't know that I spent about 19 and a half years, 20 years in the Army. People say, well, you don't have any experience for running for office. Well, I used to work, first 2 years I was nobody. After that, commanders realized I had potential. So I've been the guy that stood behind, give out the information, and work out. Whatever they needed, I was the guy. I was his left hand, right hand. Now, I know Mayor Daley has created and started a lot of things for us, and anybody that's taken office should not dismantle what he has created. And so that is probably one of the things that I'll be having to learn. But I do know, working in the military, that every year you have to ask for 5% more. We save for 11 months, and then on the 12th month we spend everything, and then we send in paperwork saying that we don't have anything and we need 5% more. So I know how the bureaucracy works. It's a little wrong, it's a little corrupt, but if that's what I have to do to make sure Riverside gets their share, I would do that. Not because I'm a crook, because that's just how the game is played, folks. So you're not getting somebody who just like, oh, he's naive, he doesn't know how it works. But there's one thing that I'm not going to do, and that is spend my time trying to figure out how to screw over the taxpayers, the people that live here in the city, or people that run their businesses here but live outside. So if you spend your money here, if you invest here, you own me. I would do whatever you want. I said I work for you, not with you. Have you ever had anybody work with you? Your friend, like Rich, comes over to my house and wants to work with me. He sits in his car and he watches me. He goes home, he tells Shelly, I was working with John. I'm the one that was doing the gardening. And by the way, I haven't moved that weed he complained about that is in front of his sign, right? So, anyway, that's my point.
Read the question, Haley? Could you repeat it? Thank you.
So Riverside is the 13th largest city in California, yet our allocation of state funding does not reflect that. What connections and strategies do you personally have in Sacramento to ensure Riverside receives our fair share?
Oh, I have no connections, but what I can do and what I have done is when I need something done and I have to meet someone that I've never met before, but yet I know I'm there to ask them for something, I do have the ability to create relationships with people in kind of a personal way where we can find common ground in order to get what we need. And the other part to that is just, you know, a little more transparency with our funds where we can, where we're allowed to let the public know where money is going and how it's being spent. I think I hear that a lot out there where people are saying they just don't know. And that's it. So I can make friends really well. It's basically what it is. All right, thank you.
Okay, I just want to read something real quick. I love the internet. This is great. Okay, so I asked the question, total number of cities in the state of California. I did not know this before I asked this question, so I just want to share it. The state has a total of 70 cities with populations of at least 100,000, but less than 1 million. While it has 127 cities whose populations range between 10,000 and 100,000 people. And so from what I understand, I'm sorry, I'm talking fast, I'm sorry. From what I understand, with the help of Rusty Bailey and in the hierarchy of cities, I believe we're in the top 12 of major top 13 of cities in the state of California. That amazed me. So just to hear that statistic is just, it's just resounding with the fact that, you know, and I didn't say this before, but I'll say it now. In the 138 years of history of Riverside, is it 138? 135. We've never had a minority or African American mayor in the city of Riverside. Or woman. Okay. So, obviously, oh, 2 women. Okay. But there's never been African American. Okay. So the bottom line is, I would get in contact with Gavin Newsom. Obviously, he's our top legislator of the state, he's our governor. And I would tap into that resource like nobody's business and make us quickly 12th or 11th or maybe 10th on that list as far as cities, the largest city. That's one of the things that I want you to understand is that when you can tap into the right resources, you can make things happen. Okay, so I don't have any contacts up north yet, but I tell you, I would definitely form relationships as quickly as possible day one. Thank you.
Thank you. As a gubernatorial appointee, I have a number of contacts in the governor's office that I work with on a regular basis. And also, I own a governmental affairs consulting business, and that entails working with the state legislature a lot. So I have worked with our delegation here in Southern California, but also Northern California and other regions on the various projects that I've worked on. So I have good working relationships with all of our legislators. I've effectively advocated for funding for our region. I've brought millions of dollars into our region through my practice and my advocacy. But probably more important than having relationships with the legislators, I think many of us in here probably have relationships with our current folks like Assembly Member Medina and Senator Roth. More than that, it's really important in the whole governmental affairs world to have relationships with advocacy groups that can help carry the flag for you. So things like the Chamber of Commerce, there's a group here called the Monday Morning Group that's very influential. You can get these groups, Inland Action is another one in San Bernardino, and they will adopt your platform, what you need, and help you spread the message. So your legislators, your governor's office, they're hearing it from all sides, from all different types of groups. So that's going to be really important. Anything we do in the city, we'll have to do that. I also didn't mention, I guess, I did work for Assembly Member Medina for 2.5 years too, so we're friends. So, all right, thank you.
When you're looking for money, you have to, first of all, identify the type of money that you want. And that, when you've identified the type of money you want, you always look for partners, whether it be community partners, individuals with the Board of Supervisors, because they're the ones that receive, as an example, the mental health money. We want mental health money in the city of Riverside, we have to work with the Board of Supervisors. We have to work with assembly members, state senators, and also, if necessary, also the Congress. Those relationships are extremely important. And those are the ones that you develop over time. Having worked as a city council member for a period of 14 years, I've been able to develop those. When you identify the types of funding and that fair share that you want, it's not an overnight thing. It's something that consistently has to be pursued. When you think about the city of Riverside being the 13th largest city in the state of California, in the 5th largest economy in the world, you need somebody with experience in the position of mayor, and you have to understand the city governance. And that's what I have done over the past 14 years. My relationship with local governments, surrounding governments, state governments are extremely valuable when you go look for that funding, that fair share of funding that you need to bring to your city. But you have to understand that when you bring it to your city, it also benefits the surrounding cities and the other individuals in the county. That fair share many times isn't specific to us, but needs to be shared with others. Thank you.
Wow, what a complex question, honestly. A little disappointed we're not getting the money we should be getting, considering how big our city is. First thing that comes to my mind is that I would look at the cities of lesser populations than we are and talk to those government officials and find out how they're doing it. That's my starting point right away, is to basically find out what has worked for the 13th, 14th, 20th largest city. Talk to their government officials, and I think, honestly, I know I have people skills. I've been in retail for 37 years. I make friends very easy. I do understand that whoever takes over the position of mayor is going to have a lot of work to do right away. We've already talked about the homeless issue. We haven't brought up the deficit yet. First of all, you got to hire a new staff. So there's going to be a lot of things that are, and as Andy mentioned, it's not going to happen overnight. So I believe in multitasking. I mean, let's face it, you're going to be catching up, you're going to be getting up to speed, but in the same time, you know, let's have the, I don't know, the assistant in Azusa come out to the Mission Inn one day. I can have John go pick them up, or Guy, they both have car services, but anyway, that's my immediate thought, is to go to the cities that have a lesser population, find out what's working to them, and I think in order to get that done, because I do believe I build confidence. A lot of people that I've talked to know that I'm genuine. They feel comfortable with me. Even the city officials that I've talked to, when I go in, I don't bring a notepad. I have a conversation with them, and they probably tell me things that they're not supposed to. But that's the way I think you operate, is basically by building that rapport, and I would hit the ground running.
As we begin to wrap up our evening, we will allow each candidate 1 minute to give a closing statement. Starting with Richard Gardner.
Okay, her sign is up, so my minute starts. Anyway, it's been nice to see everyone here tonight. I love seeing the community involvement. It shows that you guys care. I hope you've had a chance to learn a little bit about all of us on a personal basis. If not, I'm available to talk. I have business cards back there. They say, "Your next mayor" on it. My daughter there has a shirt that says, "Your next mayor." So anyway, I decided to get into this. It's a calling. I really believe that I was called to do this. I had no idea Mayor Bailey was going to not seek a third term. When one door closes, another door opens, as we all know. I do believe, I'll be honest with you, if everyone likes the way things are going in Riverside, then elect the people with experience. If you want a fresh face, a fresh voice, then vote for me on March 3rd. Thank you.
Well, this is the best election out there, and if you vote on this election, I think you're the best people in the world, because this is going to be the hardest choice. Are you going to vote for the councilman? Are you going to vote for the professional? Are you going to vote for a guy who's grown up black? Him and I have exchanged DNA. He's 68% white, I'm 38% white, so I'm more black than him. But this is 2020, right? So we should have a female mayor to bring in a 100-year vote, right? I'm all mixed. If I was a voter right now, thank God I'm running for mayor, right? I knew who to vote for. I won't know what to do if I was in your place, right? Or you can pick Rich, the nicest guy in the world. Literally. I love this guy, okay? And so, I don't know what to tell you. I would like to tell you, vote for me, but I'm not greedy. What you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to vote your conscience, your heart. If you do happen to vote for me, my 7-year-old son, I'll tell you more later.
Okay, so my life may have led me down a different path to where I didn't get to stay here. I didn't get to make connections. I left. I joined the Navy. I served my country, then I came back and I raised children, 3 of them, again, by myself, did the job of 2, sometimes 3, 4 people, multitask like nobody's business. I can get 2 kids to 2 different fields in one shot, I think that it's time that Riverside has a mayor that can connect to everybody. Life experiences count. They should count as much, if not more, than professional experience. And I think that's something that we've conditioned ourselves to not look at. Because that paper can look great, but you're not totally sure what you're getting as far as heart goes. So, basically, just kidding.
Okay, I talked to a couple of youth during that last break, and this is what I wanted to end on. So I was going to say the last question, but I'll use the last 45 seconds to do that self-promotion. Okay, I have business cards also on the back that are encompassing my business and my candidacy. So once the mayorship is over, and if it goes into a runoff, I'm not one of those 2, the card still has relevance. Okay, I said earlier I'm looking for interns to learn the business of taxi business. Please grab my cards back there, any youth, any adults, whatever. The bottom line is you can use it to get rides, and you can also ask me any questions you need about my candidacy. So I'm going to end on that and say thank you all for being here, and after they're done, good night.
Well, when you close your eyes and you think of future Riverside, do you see a sleepy citrus town or a suburb of Orange County? Or do you see a thriving urban center, the economic engine of inland Southern California? That's the Riverside I see. And that's why when Mayor Bailey and Mayor Ron Loveridge asked me to run, they knew I could take us there. But we also have a lot of challenges ahead of us. And if we keep on doing things the same way, or we do nothing at all, we won't be able to meet those challenges. But you can do something. You can vote for me on March 3rd. So thank you very much.
Who would have ever thought a kid from Casablanca would be standing up here and be a 4-term city council member? Or the paper boy that used to be the paper boy for St. Catherine's and the St. Catherine's Convent at the age of 12. Our family's been here since 1910. We love Riverside. Graduate of all the public school system here in our city. Being a council member for 4 terms, if elected mayor, there would be no learning curve. Congressman Mark Takano has seen that. That's why he's endorsing me. Assemblymember Medina has seen that. That's why they're endorsing me. Assemblymember Cervantes, that's why they're endorsing me. Supervisor Kevin Jeffries, that's why they're endorsing me. As your mayor, there will be no learning curve, and we will keep moving Riverside forward. Thank you for your time, and thank you for my lovely wife joining me today and singing to me.
We want to thank all of you and our guests being here tonight. Let's give everyone a hand for a successful night. Before we close, I want to remind everyone that the views of the candidates are entirely their own, and the sponsorship of this forum by ICUC and our congregations is not intended as an endorsement of any candidate. After our closing prayer, we will adjourn. Now we invite Father Jean to lead us in prayer.
Stand for the closing prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord God, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for the candidates for mayor who took time to be with us today, this evening. We thank you for the organizers, the ICUC. We thank you for all of us here present, for you have made us all aware that we are one city. We are working for the good of others, especially the work of the mayor that will be for one of these candidates, and we hope that you'll bless each of them, that they will be of service to all of us in the city. We thank you for all the public servants for all their efforts for the good of all, and so we thank you all, for most of all, Lord our God, for gathering us together, make us all aware of our duty as citizens. Being faithful, to be faithful to our citizenship, and most especially faithful to our service to each one. All this we ask, and we thank you through Christ our Lord. Amen. Have a nice evening.